Welcome to the Wise Show with Goodwill, Easter Seals, and Humidop. My name is Adina Wingfield, your host for today. And on today's broadcast, we have our team host, Gail Daffler, with Goodwill Easter Seals. She is a prevention specialist. And we also have Michael Mann. And on Zoom, we have Tamara Cantrell, prevention specialist with Humidop, and Trent Smith, our other prevention specialist with Goodwill Easter Seals. We have a wonderful partnership going with Humidop and Goodwill Easter Seals, and you will hear more about our programs on today's podcast, scheduled at 4:30 p.m. on DATV.org. And this program, WISE, is offered to you by the New Jersey Network. We are all trained facilitators, and the program stands for Wellness Initiative for Senior Education. We have an exciting show planned for you today. So please, if you have a moment, take time to get some paper and a pen so you can take notes with us. But before we start our program, just want to let everybody know, just take a deep breath in and relax. This is a show that's all about conversations and about family. And so this is a judgment-free zone, first of all. Join in with us to have conversations to help families across the nation begin discussing health together more. Our lessons are interactive. So again, please take this moment to get some pen and paper for your notes. Now, today's lesson on our next slide is about understanding changes with aging. Now, we know we all need to do a lot more of that. We're all aging. It doesn't matter how young we are. And we are changing every day. So our lesson today, Understanding Changes with Aging, has some agendas and activities that we're going to take care of today. Our first one is truth or myth. And that's where we're going to get a better understanding of the facts and myths of aging. On this next slide, it says it's a matter of life and death, where we get greater familiarity with the top 10 causes of death, risk versus resiliency. That tells us all about the risks and some of the great things we can do to improve our health. Aging and depression. We know we all experience that sometimes, so we're going to talk about that today. And finally, we'll discuss our commitment to wellness. Now, in our lesson today, the purpose and expected outcomes are examining how the aging process helps us to live happier, healthier lives. It helps us to have better understanding of some of the facts and myths of aging. Greater familiarity with the top 10 causes of death in America. Enhanced knowledge, enhanced knowledge of what places individuals at risk for premature death and how to avoid these risks. It also gives us heightened awareness of the risk of depression among older adults. So as we go forward, we're going to play a quick game called Truth or Myth, and this game is all about some of the things we say about older adults that may or may not be true. So if you are not sure, you don't have to do anything, but as you participate at home, truth is a thumbs up, okay? Myth, thumbs down. That is not a fact, okay? So truth, you give a green light for the thumbs up, or myth. And we're going to pass it on to Mr. Mann.
Again, our first activity is going to be about truth or myth. And again, you can put thumbs up or thumb down, or you can either, if you have a sign like Gail has truth or myth on it, and she will show that sign. Before we start, there's so much conflicting information out there, it's difficult to ascertain what the truths are about growing older and what some of the myths we hear are. In this activity, we will learn to discern between the two. Our first question is going to be, and this is going to be a true or false question. Aging is a highly individual experience. People age at different rates. Is that question true or false? Give everybody a chance to think about it for a second. Okay, we have truth or myth here. Okay, I'm going to read the answer. It's actually true. Much to how you age depends on how you care for your body. For example, those who smoke usually look 5 to 10 years older than they are because of the wrinkles that form as a result. While people who exercise are at a lower risk for heart disease, lifestyle choices contribute to the rate at which the body ages. So we know lifestyle, smoking, and things like that can contribute. So that was actually true. Our second question. Increasing age brings about a decline in sexual desire and interest. Is that true or false? Again, I give everybody a few seconds to think about it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. That is actually false. A comprehensive national survey on sexual attitudes, behaviors, and problems among older adults in the U.S. found that most people ages 57 to 85 think of sexuality as an important part of their life, and that the frequency of sexual activity for those who are active declines only slightly from the ages of 50 to the early 70s. Next question. The dementia is a normal part of aging. Is that true or false? Dementia is a normal part of aging. What do y'all think? What do y'all think?
Okay, somebody said
missed
change
on
it.
there.
Wait, let's
Okay,
go. Let's go.
again,
with the
that's
audience.
false.
Oh.
Although dementia
Good job.
mainly affects older people, it is not a normal part of aging and should be seen as a modifiable health condition that should be followed like any other medical condition. Dementia is a syndrome, usually of a chronic or progressive nature, in which there is deterioration in cognitive function beyond that which may be expected from normal aging. It affects memory, thinking, orientation, comprehension, calculation, learning capability, language, and judgment. So again, that's false. Dementia is not necessarily a normal part of aging. Number 4, genetics, nutrition, stress, exercise, healthcare, and lifestyles all influence the aging process. Is that true or false? Okay, our panel is saying true. That is actually true. While the role of genetics in aging is important, it has been tremendously overstated. Genes are about 35% of the story. Individual makes choices that can play an important role in how successful each one of us age. Diet, exercise, and even medications can delay the process or eliminate the emergence of some diseases.
So when we think about truth or myth, there's a whole lot of things that come to mind about the dangers of assuming things. That upsets people, doesn't it, sometimes? So sometimes we want to just make sure that we think about some of the things we say before we do. I know a lot of you out there watching would agree that, wow, because the sexual activity one is the one that really shocks a lot of people. But hey, it's very important to know the changes with aging. But I'll carry back to you.
Next slide, please. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. True or false? That is actually false, and I know we hear that statement all the time. People talking about you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Normal aging is not linked to a loss of intelligence. It's a myth to think that after a certain age you can't learn new skills, try new activities, or make fresh lifestyle changes. The truth is that the human brain never stops changing. So older adults are just as capable as younger people in learning new things and adapting to new ideas. So again, that is false. For example, I can remember growing up, when I was growing up, they didn't have computers and all this stuff. Matter of fact, we had a phone that dialed, and we had something called a party line for any of the older people out there listening in. So I had to learn how to work a computer for my job, right? Had to learn how to do Zoom. I'm still taking classes, so we can certainly continue to learn new things as we get older. Anybody else on the panel have anything to say?
Oh, yes. I'm continuing to learn, but go ahead.
Absolutely. Like when I think about this class today, we're all moving forward, and I really have a lot of respect for everybody who's tuned in, whether they're watching on DATV, whether they're watching on Zoom, on Facebook Live. People are learning how to connect with each other in a new way. So welcome everybody, and we're so glad that you're able to watch today.
That is so true. Technology, didn't we say we're going to learn whether we want to or not? We're going to learn this technology thing, and there's so many different ways of understanding it, and so it's good to continue to learn as we age.
Right. Next question, number 6. Most of the aged live in a long stay institutions such as nursing homes, mental hospitals, and homes for the aged. So do you think most people stay in nursing homes, mental hospitals, and home for the aged? Is that true or false? That's actually a myth. That's actually false. Only 1% of people aged 65 to 74 and 20% of people aged 85 and older live in nursing homes or in long-term facilities. 25% of people admitted stay for 3 months or less and are often admitted to rehabilitation or for the end-of-life care. About half of the residents spend at least 1 year in a nursing home. Any other thing on that? Okay, next question. Physical strength tends to decline with age. True or false?
I'm going to say true. I'm going to say true.
Okay, that's actually true. Beginning at age 30, most of us lose about 1% or 1/3 of a pound of muscle every year. As the body starts tearing down old muscle at a faster rate than it builds new tissue. The loss of muscle, which burns more calories than fat, slows the body's resting metabolic rate, causing us to pack on fat pounds through the years. However, much older adults can find a form of exercise that works for them, whether it's a simple exercises that can be done from a chair, aerobic classes, walking, or weight training. Consider all options and what might work best for you. I know for me, I attend a class at the YMCA, and it's a senior class, and we do exercise. We start off in chairs. Some of them are standing up. We use weights, balls, stretching, a cord, to help, keep our tone or help our tone last longer.
I do a lot of walking. I walk my dogs. I'm able to get out to see my neighbors that way, so there's that connection. And when I can't get out, because right now there's all this snow, so we're not able to get out. I have little dogs, so that's something where I get online and I use YouTube videos to stay active.
That is such a good point. And now I recently joined the gym, and sometimes our body just hurts, right? And so they, at Planet Fitness, I'll give a quick plug there, but they have the ability where there's a bed that you can get massaged. So sometimes just getting our body healed, then we can start working out is another way. So join the gym. They have social distance there, so make sure they have all the things set to keep you safe. But they do.
That's correct. Last question. Being socially active is good for your health. Is that true or false?
Most of the time, Michael, most of the time.
Okay, again, that's true. We know the pandemic is going on right now, but there are many things you can do to help yourself age well. Physical activity, exercise, and making healthy food choices are the cornerstones for most suggestions about healthy aging.
That's right.
But emerging research also indicates the possibility that aging in social and productive activities that you enjoy. So doing social activities that you enjoy, like taking an art class or volunteering in your community or going to your place of worship. It may help you maintain your well-being. A number of early studies found that people who are involved in hobbies and other social and leisure pursuits may have a lower risk for aging, and then to include the health problems and to include dementia.
Absolutely. There's just so many things we can do to improve our health associated with aging. So.
Right. I'm going to ask a couple of reflection questions, then I'm going to pass it on to Gail for the next module. Did the fact that any of these statements were myths and truths surprise you? And if so, which ones and why? And did anything surprise any one of you?
I think I'm always surprised because about how we the amount of muscle that we lose through the years.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are active and that they are healthy, and as we are getting older, more people are really tending to their health, and you could see that with our population, that people are using their information to become healthier. And Michael, I mean, all the things that you're active in and just how healthy you are, like that is something that we see every day.
I wasn't going to tell everybody I was 74.
No way.
Well, that's
No
good.
way.
And so, last reflection question before we pass on. What can we do or go out to dispel some of these myths? Are there some things that we can do to dispel some of the myths that we have about aging?
I have one. I think we could just listen more.
Okay.
I could just sit and have a conversation with you, and you tell me all the things you're working on, and that just breaks them all down. It breaks all the walls down.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it on to Gail for the next module.
Thank you, Michael. Today we're going to look at it's a matter of life and death. And we just talked with Michael about the truths and myths about aging. As we know, death is part of the circle of life. And can we delay death and slow the aging process down? It's a great question. In this activity, we're going to examine the causes of death and determine the extent of control we have to extending our own lives. So we're going to look at our next slide here, and we're going to see in 2020, our public health, they have determined how, the causes of death for people 55 and above. So when we look at our slide here, okay, so actually this is actually the list here. The top cause of death for people 55 and above here in Montgomery County is heart disease. And so unfortunately we have had 1,350 people passed away in 2020 from heart disease. I want to think about our protective factors though, because that is huge. When we think about what can we do to be safer and healthier around our hearts, what are some things here on our panel that we can think of that you can do to be safer with our hearts?
I'd say keep a positive mindset. It is very important to help your mind stay free of cluttered thinking. And so just positive thinking is what I'll say.
I'll say exercising, getting the right amount of sleep.
Those are great. And the audience, do you have anything you want to say? Okay. All right. Well, we'll look at a few other factors here. First is blood pressure, making sure that we monitor that, get that checked, regularly if you have high blood pressure. Also our cholesterol as well. Going to our doctors regularly, getting all those monitored, or getting something so that we can screen those in our own home. Living at a healthy weight, like looking at what we can do to be at a better weight. And maybe that's eating vegetables more, eating fruits more, but looking at that and working with our medical team to make sure that we're at the optimum weight for ourselves. And include, like Michael said, being more active is huge for our heart health, whether that's walking, it could be dancing, it could be just doing chair exercises, it could be playing with the grandkids, so whatever it is that you're able to do to be active, whether it's in the community or in your family, those are great choices. Also, limiting the amount of alcohol. So something that we're going to talk about in one of our later segments is what is a safe amount of alcohol, and looking at making better choices around that. And also learning to manage our stress. Thank you, Adina. That is huge. Our second cause of death here from Montgomery County in 2020 was cancer. And so we had 1,109 people pass away from cancer in 2020. When we think about cancer, what are some of the protective factors that we could put into our lives around cancer?
I have a good one. I think blocking the sun, the UV rays to the skin is very important. So making sure we wear sunscreen, no matter what pigment of skin you have. Everyone, please wear your sunscreen.
Thank you.
Right, I would say another one is cancer. I know my father passed at 60 years old, and he was a chain smoker, and he had got cancer of the lungs, and by the time he finally discovered it, the doctor said it was way too late. So I would say tobacco is certainly a high risk for cancer. People who smoke or nicotine.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's almost the same as our heart disease. So looking at all those factors that we already discussed, putting those two in, and as well, and the other two that I want to talk about is to make sure that we get our vaccinations and keeping them up to date. That is another way we could protect ourselves from cancer. The other is to go in and get tested through our doctor, making sure that we follow through if we're 50 and above on the specific tests that our physicians want us to take. And the last one I wanted to look at was on our first page it said NA at the bottom, but it was COVID-19. COVID-19 for 55 and above here in Montgomery County, there were 431 people pass away in Montgomery County. So when we look at, say, COVID, making sure that, we sanitize our hands, we wash our hands regularly, we wear our mask in public, we keep 6 feet away from each other. And also if we're thinking about getting the vaccination, look to having a great conversation with our physicians about that. Is this a good choice for me? Having that conversation with them, looking at what medications you currently take, looking at what current medical conditions that you have, and seeing if that's something that would be healthy for you to take. So that's one thing I really encourage everybody to have that conversation with your medical team if you're currently thinking about that, because we want to make sure that you're as safe as possible. Especially around COVID, we want to look at what information that we do need. So our public health has a great website with information to keep us safe. Going there as well and educating ourselves is a huge thing that we can do too. If we can go to the next slide, please. Actually, in 2 slides here. So actually, on this number 5 is accidents for Montgomery County. Number 6 is Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and then we have our chronic kidney disease, and then influenza, pneumonia rounds that out. If we can go to the next slide, that would be fantastic. Okay, so on this slide, it's a really small type here, so I will read this to you. So it says, while homicides and national tragedies get the most media attention, the top causes of death are heart disease and cancer. And that's been in the nation as well as in Montgomery County. Not surprisingly, a healthy lifestyle could impact the causes of death of over 1 million people a year. So that's something that's very preventable. So many of the top causes of death are a result of lifestyle choices and behaviors, such as smoking, poor diet, physical inactivity, that can contribute to the nation's leading killers. So most of the common behaviors that lead to death over the United States are smoking, poor diet and inactivity, alcohol consumption, influenza or pneumonia, toxic agents, motor vehicle accidents, firearms, and illicit use of drugs. So this is quite a list right here. Just, looking at this and seeing what we can do to be safer and healthier is a great step. By taking a look at this list here, can you think of a lifestyle choice and behavior that you engage in that could be having a negative impact on your health? Are there one or two choices that you can make to be healthier? So I want you to think about that. What are some choices that you could do to be healthier throughout the day and in your life? So are there any choices that you would make?
I know I have one. One of mine is diet. Because I eat out most of the time. Most meals I eat out. And plus, I've never gotten over. I grew up in a household where my mother always had desserts and sweets, and so I know I've tried several times. I'm not going to buy any more cupcakes. I'm not going to buy any more cake when I go to the store, and then seem to always still have a problem with that. So I'm trying to work on now on my diet, eating better, picking out better qualities of food, eating more vegetables and fruit.
And mine would be water. I love water, making sure that I consume lots and lots of that every day. And I believe it's half your body weight in ounces, half your body weight in ounces per day to engage in just a healthier flow for your body. So.
And mine is being more physically active. And a lot of that is just walking, lifting weights at home, small weights, but just trying to build more activity into my daily life. As well as what Michael said, is making those choices around food, putting more vegetables and more fruits into my diet. Because do I like the candy? Do I like the M&Ms, Michael? Yes, I do. I love the M&Ms.
Right.
I love to drink Coca-Cola, so making sure I drink more water. So that is something that is a huge step for me to take. Okay, so thank you so much. And our next segment, Miss Adina is going to lead that.
Oh my goodness. We are on risk versus resiliency at this point. And there's so many things that cause risk. But as we've been discussing, there are lifestyles and behaviors that put us at risk for illness and premature death. And these are lifestyles and behaviors there are also lifestyles and behaviors that promote healthier living. So a couple of these risk factors, there's one that starts here. I see that we have cigarette smoking up. And it is very adverse health effect to over 443,000 people have passed away, or that's nearly 1 of every 5 deaths each year in the United States is caused by cigarette smoking. So again, this is a judgment-free zone. I'm sure there's some smokers here and maybe been doing it for a long time, but we want to talk about that. That nicotine is highly addictive. We know that addiction is a serious thing, and it is very hard to break habits, but we are encouraging everyone to abstain from smoking and work on a plan to come out of that for better health. Okay, and so when we look at cigarette smoking, can you help think about ways to help with the anxiety that maybe people use smoking for? What can we do instead?
Well, I know that I smoked for about 25 years,
Okay.
and I had developed a hacking cough, and so my doctor kept telling me, you need to quit smoking. So I tried several times to quit smoking, and I couldn't stop, or I didn't stop. But what happened was I had to stop drinking coffee because coffee and cigarettes sort of went together for me. And when I was drinking alcohol years and years ago, those things sort of went together. Yeah. So I had to stop both of those things at the same time. And then, fortunately, after I quit smoking, I would say 6-7 months later, I don't have that hacking cough anymore. Yeah. And that's been 17 years now. So, and I'm not trying to judge anybody else who smokes, right, but I would just say that anybody that does smoke, I would just recommend that they don't chain smoke, because nicotine is certainly addictive and can cause a lot of health problems.
Right. And so there's programs out there if you need help. We'll tell more about those programs on our podcast later, but there's so many ways to do smoke cessation and stop those habits and adopt some new ones. And so as we go on, when we think about alcohol use, same thing. We're thinking about ways of coping. Now, I know a lot of people may have started with 1 drink. Maybe you were drinking socially, and now the pandemic brought on 2 drinks. 3 drinks, and you're going, let me think about this. Is this excessive alcohol consumption? Is this leading, because it is a third leading cause of preventable disease, okay? It can cause so many problems in our body, cirrhosis of the liver, bad mood, lack of sleep, so many things. And I always defer to Gail about this withdrawal symptoms that it causes. Could you tell us more about the withdrawal that alcohol creates when it becomes a real problem?
Absolutely. It is something where the withdrawal, if somebody is truly addicted to alcohol, unfortunately, it could kill them if they don't get medical attention. So that's something that we want to make sure that people, are contacting their medical team, if they're choosing to get help and to stop drinking. That is a huge step. Because they could have delirious tremors. They could be going through a lot of medical withdrawals. It could affect a lot of their organs. So we want to make sure that they're safe as possible.
All right, and depression is something that is also associated deeply with the alcoholism. We're going to go into that a little bit later, but that is such a major point. We're all going through the pandemic and the isolation of things. So let's move on to those factors here. We talked about obesity earlier and lack of physical activity. But let's go to some of the psychological factors. Look at this: stress, depression, isolation, low frustration tolerance, and difficulty accepting change may affect our hormones. Immune function, listen clearly, immune function, cholesterol level, and other biochemical functions. So the mind is very powerful. That's where we start all of our body functions, and it does cause illness when it's not flowing well, if we're not thinking well. So certain personality characteristics may predispose some to select life-shortening behavior patterns, such as smoking or heavy drinking. We all may have grown up with a parent or someone who did that and followed the steps. Children do what they see, and it's a predisposition at times, and not always, but those are things that occur. So what are some things that, when we think about the psychological part?
Well, I know, I was just thinking when you said that, my parents were born in Mississippi, and when I used to go visit, they lived like on a farm, and they used to make something called moonshine. So when my relatives moved to Dayton, we moved here first, and as families do, a lot of families that came from the South, one person would move up and then other people would come stay with them until they found a job and a place to stay. So as that happened in our family, my cousins, when they came up, they were already drinking moonshine, and so that was a part of their culture. So they just thought it was okay to drink. It was okay to drink in the morning, drink in the evening, and so they never thought about how much they were drinking, even when we discussed that with them. And I had a few cousins that passed away because of cirrhosis of the liver and things like that because of drinking. And I don't believe any of them ever thought they had a problem. Then when they did realize they had a problem, it was too late.
It was too late. See, there's so many things about that and the influence of others. But we just want to think about which of these risk factors do you think are the easiest to avoid? What do you think about that? What do you think would be easiest to avoid out of alcohol or physical inactivity, smoking? What would be the easiest? And what's the most difficult to counter? Go ahead.
Well, I think it's probably a very individual actually choice there, decision for that. It would probably if people look at their lives and to see where they're challenged at, that and what's something that they could do. For me personally, the easiest one to overcome would be physical activity. Yeah. Making sure that we move as much as we can. And it doesn't have to be in a gym. It doesn't have to be, something that, I think I look at those Sean T videos, where he's, moving like doing these kicks in the air. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that. It can be just very simple movement. Dance moves, play basketball, getting out and playing croquet maybe, but different things that people can do to be active. I think that's the easiest for me. But I think we just need to assess that for ourselves.
And Gail was just talking about staying active and positive because physical activity is so important. You see our seniors here sitting in a chair, but they have their legs up. We can move. Whatever body part we can move, let's roll our neck. We can do that together even now. Ooh, stretching. Oh, that's the best. Right. But stretching is an exercise in itself. So there are low impact exercises that still help us to thrive and get that blood moving. Okay.
Can I say one thing about one thing? I think one of the most difficult ones is nicotine. Nicotine was very difficult for me. and because we know nicotine is addictive.
Yes.
And so it, became so much. It started becoming a habit to me, like it was with my dad. That when I got up, I grabbed a cigarette. During the day I smoked. At night before I went to bed, and I didn't understand. I thought I had a choice. And then when I got help, and then in some areas when you need help, we can reach out to other agencies, like you said, we'll talk about later. I had to reach out to some people to help me with that and some other agencies. But some things are very difficult to stop on our own.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Let's see the next slide, please. So in all of the topics today, we talked about obesity, physical inactivity, smoking cessation, isolation, and psychological factors. We are doing so much to help improve our health, and we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break here for just a moment and look at some of the reflections of this topic, okay? We want to reflect on risk versus resiliency. There are so many different things that we can do to improve our health. And so as we come to a close here, we are looking forward to thinking about our health, right? Are we more aware? How do you feel about your commitment to wellness?
I think I'm doing good. I've joined a couple of programs now. I'm in a dancing program. I'm also in an exercise program. And doing pretty good. Matter of fact, I made a New Year's resolution. I went out and got some weights. So some days I'm doing good with that, but I'm trying to continue to do better. And some days I get up in the morning and I just walk past the weights and we speak to each other, and I try to get it when I come back in that afternoon. But I'm doing better, and I know that's something that I need to continue to do.
Absolutely. We have learned so much today, and we just encourage everyone to continue to be well and to listen. And hopefully you can play this back sometime. I know this will air again sometime soon, but I just want you all to know that we thank you for listening to our show today, for watching and tuning in. And we hope that we see you again at 4:30 for our podcast on Facebook Live. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Wise Podcast, where we have our host, Miss Trent Smith from Goodwill Easter Seals, and myself, Tamara Cantrell from UMADOP of Dayton. And today we're just going to recap of what we learned in Lesson 1 of our Wise programming, understanding the changes associated with aging. So to begin, we'll go into our Activity 1, which dispelled some of the myths associated with aging. So with that, our truth and myth game, we had our first question was, aging is a highly individual experience. People age at different rates. This was actually true. Much of how we age depends on how we care for ourselves, and that can include whether we drink, smoke, or whether we engage in healthy eating or any physical activities. So aging affects different people depending on how you care for yourself.
All right, so the second truth or myth was increasing age brings about a decline in sexual desire and interest. That is false. That's false, and there's been studies that show. So there's a comprehensive study, national survey of sexual attitudes and behaviors and problems among older adults in the U.S., found that most people ages 57 to 85 think of sexuality as an important part of life, and that the frequency of sexuality activity for those who are active declines only slightly from the 50s to the early 70s. This survey also found that the sexual activity was closely tied to overall health, which was even more important than age. However, as health declined after the early 70s, so did the prevalence of sexual activity, particularly for women. And among those remained sexually active, nearly half reported at least one sexual problem, such as lack of desire. So there's a lot of research out there that helps understand that this is false. Yes.
All right. Number 3 said dementia is a normal part of aging. That is actually myth. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. So as we get older, we do not all develop dementia. Dementia is actually a syndrome, usually of a chronic or progressive nature, in which there is deterioration in cognitive function beyond what might be expected from normal aging. It affects memory, thinking, orientation, comprehension, calculation, learning capacity, language, and judgment. So, as we get older, we do not all develop dementia. That is a myth.
Absolutely. Well, moving on, let's talk genetics, nutrition, stress, exercise, healthcare, lifestyle, all influence the aging process. And that is true. That is true. While the role of genetics in aging is important, it's tremendously overstated. So genes are about 35% of the story. Individuals make choices that can play an important role in how successfully each of us age. So diet, exercise, and even medications may delay or eliminate the emergence of disease. So that is true. All those things help.
All right, and number 5 stated, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That is actually a myth. As we get older, we are actually capable of learning new activities and learning new skills or making fresh lifestyle changes. So the fact that we're getting older doesn't mean that we're stuck in our ways. It means that we can still grow and learn and engage in new activities.
Absolutely, that's true. So, or that is false. You can teach old dog new tricks. Mm-hmm. So, the next step is most of aged live in long stay institutions such as nursing homes, mental hospitals, and homes for the aged. That is a myth. That is not true. So, only 1% of people ages 65 to 74 and 20% of people aged 85 and older live in nursing homes or long-term care facilities. 25% of people admitted stay for 3 months or less and often are admitted for just rehabilitation or end-of-life care. About half those residents spend at least 1 year in the nursing home, and 21% live there for almost 5 years. So that is a myth. All right.
All right, and number 7, we talked about physical strength tends to decline with age. That is true. Beginning at age 30, most of us lose about 1% or a third of a pound of muscle every year as the body starts tearing down old muscle at a faster rate than it builds new tissue. So what that means is as we get older, as we age, our body is not able to regenerate that tissue that's being broken down. So we end up losing that strength. So that is true.
Right. So actually number 8 is being socially active is good for your health. That is absolutely true. So there are many things you can do to help yourself age well. Physical activity and exercise. There's making healthy food choices are the cornerstones for most suggestions about healthy aging. But emerging research also indicates the possibility that engaging in social and productive activities you enjoy, like taking an art class or volunteering in your community or with your place of worship, may also help maintain your well-being. So a number of real early studies found that people who are involved in hobbies and other activities may have a lower risk for developing some health problems, including dementia.
All right, and that concluded Activity 1 with our dispelling all our myths about aging. Activity 2 in this lesson talked about the top 10 causes of death. So I'm going to run through the top 10 causes of death, and then Ms. Trent will go through the top 10 causes of death within Montgomery County. So number 1 was heart disease with 611,000 deaths. Number 2 was cancer with 584,800 deaths. Number 3 was chronic lower respiratory disease with 149,000 deaths. Number 4 was accidents or unintentional injuries coming in with 130,557 deaths. 5 was stroke with 128,978 deaths. 6 Alzheimer's disease with 84,767 deaths. 7, diabetes, 75,578 deaths. 8 was influenza and pneumonia with 56,979 deaths. Number 9 was nephritis, nephrotic syndrome, and nephrosis with 47,112 deaths. And number 10 was suicide with 41,149 deaths. So these were the top 10 causes of death amongst our older populations. Trent will now talk about the top 10 causes of death just within Montgomery County.
All right, so here we are. Heart disease, unfortunately, is the highest number, and it's 1,350. Cancer, that's 1,109. And about half of that are strokes, about 493. Chronic lower respiratory disease came in at 294, so it keeps going down. But those are the 4 that I wanted to actually highlight for today. But the other thing I wanted to mention is our COVID-19 deaths in Montgomery County. And so we've got a number of 431 deaths in Montgomery County. But hopefully those numbers are going down, right, Tara?
Yes, hopefully. Let's just keep our fingers crossed.
Yep.
All right, so with that, Activity 3 was talking about risk and resiliency factors, and that tied in with Activity 2 because some of the causes of death are related to the risks that we have, and we're going to talk about or give some ideas of what we can do to limit those risks with our resiliency factors. So a risk factor that we have is obesity. So with obesity, Trent, what do you think some things that we can do to overcome that or reduce that risk?
Oh, I think there's some great things we can do. We can do some exercise. I know sometimes exercise seems like a big thing, but you know what? Exercise can just be movement. Exercise can be just, sitting in your chair and lifting your arms. And you might find me at my desk sometimes, just lifting my arms, sometimes take my water bottle and use it as a weight, just to get some movement in there. So I think just having some good, gentle exercise is always good.
Right, absolutely. And also the way we prepare our meals can help combat obesity. A lot of saturated fats come from fried foods or our sweets that we like to eat. So maybe cutting back on some of those fried foods and baking our foods, maybe substituting some of our favorite ice creams for like our frozen yogurts and fruits. So those are some things that we can do to be resilient in overcoming that risk factor of obesity.
Right.
We have another risk factor of physical inactivity. Now that has affected a lot of people being inactive due to COVID-19. And with that in mind, I would just have to say that following what Trent was saying, doing some chair exercises, some of those low impact, low intensity things just to stay moving. Also being creative with getting on YouTube and watching some of those videos and doing it within the comfort of your own home to help combat that physical inactivity. And with this, we know that physical activity is the main cause for 25% of breast and colon cancers, 27% of diabetes, and approximately 30% of heart disease. So we want to make sure that we limit that risk by staying active with some of the ideas that we've listed, or if you have some other things of your own that you may do to help combat physical inactivity, going on outings with your friends or your family members, just staying active and engaged.
Absolutely. Another risk factor we have is cigarette smoking and alcohol use. So cigarette smoking has, it's estimated of 443,000 deaths, or nearly 1 in every 5 deaths each year in the United States. So more deaths are caused each year by tobacco than all other deaths together. So that's something that, we want to be really encourage people to not use cigarettes and not use vaping and things like that. The other thing is alcohol use, and I know sometimes alcohol use has become an issue in the United States, and so we always want to encourage people to always don't use it to, at some point you can cause adverse health consequences cirrhosis, and it causes, it can contribute to various cancers, and things like that. So we always encourage people not to overuse or misuse alcohol.
All right, and another risk factor we have is isolation. Research associates isolation with higher numbers of chronic illness and higher depression scores. So when we're in isolation, we tend to decline in health because we're not getting out, we're not exercising, we're probably not eating healthy. We just lose that whole social aspect of life. It affects our thinking and judgment. So some resiliency factors or some resiliency things we can do to limit that risk factor with isolation, as mentioned before, is kind of staying involved with your family, with your friends, getting involved in group activities. So I know with the COVID, before it was kind of hard, but things are coming around a little better now. So just making sure we're staying engaged and aware of the things that we can do. Zoom is a way that people have stayed in contact with each other, with their family and church members. So just trying to find some things to do to combat that isolation so that we don't become chronically ill.
Absolutely.
So another risk factor that we have to combat is psychological factors. So those things like our stress, depression, isolation, low tolerance, accepting change. Sometimes certain personality characteristics can expose you to psychological factors. So what are some things that we can do to combat those psychological factors? Well, we need to be aware of some of the signs and symptoms that we may be experiencing psychological factors and seeking help. Did you have anything else?
Absolutely, and I think it's always important with psychological factors. When you ask for help, that's not a weakness. That's a strength to be able to reach out. So if you're feeling down, and reach out to your friends and family or doctors to get the support that you need.
Absolutely, and that goes into aging and depression. With age, sometimes depression can set in because of the isolation and the lack of physical activity. Sometimes we become immobile. So we want to make sure that we're staying aware of some of those signs and symptoms of depression. And when we see those in other people, or if we start feeling it or seeing it with ourselves, that we're seeking the appropriate help and attention that we may need.
Right. Depression is not a normal part of growing old, right? It's the most seniors feel satisfied with their lives. However, depression can and does occur in older adults. Unfortunately, it often goes undiagnosed and untreated. And so they're reluctant to seek help. But it's important to know that this is not something, it's not normal part of growing older. So don't just accept it as what it is. Take care of yourself.
And with that in mind, in older adults, they're saying that some depression may go undiagnosed. So because of this, some symptoms to look for is fatigue, loss of appetite, sleep problems, or loss of interest in sex. And some people may think this is caused by other illness, but it actually can be a sign of depression. Feeling dissatisfied in general with life, feeling helpless or worthless. A lot of times you'll see people staying at home rather than going out and socializing. Having suicidal thoughts or feelings is a sign of serious depression. And it shouldn't be taken lightly, and especially in men. Sometimes men have that ego thing, or they have to put on that front, but it's something that affects everyone, whether you're a female, male.
Yeah.
So some things, when to see a doctor. If you feel depressed, make an appointment to see your doctor as soon as you can. Depression symptoms may not get better on their own, and depression may get worse if it isn't treated. Untreated depression can lead to other mental and physical health problems or problems in other areas of your life. Feelings of depression can also lead to suicide. If you're reluctant to seek any type of treatment, it's important that you talk to a family friend or loved one, healthcare professional, faith leader, or just someone that you trust. Because as we age and get older, that can be something that we experience, depression, and it can take on all those things in our life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to kind of add there also, it's really important that if you see you have a friend or someone that you know that is having suicidal thoughts or kind of acting like they're really down, it's okay to ask them and talk to them about it. And, and if you're concerned, you can share that with someone else. Because everyone wants someone looking out for them,
Right. Absolutely. Okay, and to wrap up this lesson, we wanted to make sure that we give everyone the opportunity to think about some ways that they can commit to wellness. So, Trent, could you kind of give us an idea of the commitment of wellness wheel and things that people can do or areas of their lives they can commit to maintain a healthy life?
Absolutely, absolutely. The wellness wheel is a wonderful way to look at all of the things that can add into, you can take part of and to improve your wellness. So there are different areas. I'm just going to run through these, but we can come back and talk about them. Your social ways to find ways socially to actually help yourself become to a better life. Intellectual, emotional, occupational, environmental, financial, spiritual, and physical. So these are some great areas that you can make a choice to make a commitment to choose one of these areas actually to move forward and find some good decision making in your life to help you feel better.
Exactly. In our commitment to wellness, it just helps us focus on a path in order to enhance our quality of life. So that's what our commitment to wellness is all about. So if you can pick one of those areas to focus on, doing an area to do better in, it helps increase our quality of life. And then we can pick several areas, or you can go on to the next area. So, and it's something that you can revisit too throughout your journey to maintaining a healthy, balanced life.
Right. Hey, so I'm just gonna tell you what mine is. Mine is to be physical. I am on the road. I want to make sure I'm getting more exercise. Being inside and with the cold weather and with COVID, I'm going to find a way somehow to pump up my physical activity to help me feel healthier. And Tamara, do you have something you're going to commit to?
I would probably want to commit to financial wellness. We all want that financial freedom, but we all have those spending habits, and sometimes you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So just managing my money better so that I can enjoy life a little better and not be stressed about certain things, maybe creating a better budget.
Absolutely.
And limiting certain pleasures that we may have, even though it's good to have those things, but just having financial wellness is important as well.
Absolutely. That's great. That is a great idea. So I think that we're going to wrap up our podcast, but we want to tell you some more about who we are and the organizations that we are working with. And I am going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about Goodwill. Goodwill Easter Seals is a wonderful organization. We have all sorts of programming to help all sorts of people in all age groups and different things. And always know that everything that you purchase from stores money goes back to services that we help provide to the community. So a couple of those services I wanted to talk about is, first of all, our prevention team. That's what I am. I'm a prevention specialist with Goodwill. And we do lots of different programs out there. And, of course, the big program we do is the WISE program, which is today, the Wellness Initiative for Senior Education. And this podcast is a great way for us to reach out to people. Another thing that we have is we have something called the Medical Equipment Loan Program. And Goodwill has a program that lends assistive living medical equipment to anyone in need. They offer wheelchairs and commodes and walkers and crutches, and all free of charge. They accept donations as well. So we are open now from Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 9:30 to 4 p.m. And we're located at the main Goodwill building in downtown Dayton. And you can actually just get on the website or call to have like a non-contact appointment. And just to know that those items are things that you can keep. You don't have to pay for them at all. If you ever want to get rid of them, you can bring them back to a store, bring them back anywhere, and you can or give them to a family member who might need them. I know that my family has used them. Myself and my family have all used equipment. The other one that I'm going to highlight is Goodwill Easter Seals senior program, and this is called Csep, and it is the Senior Community Service Employment Program, better known as Csep. And it provides job training and employment opportunities for seniors age 55 and older with limited income who may be facing barriers or lack confidence or skills. So to help them get back into the workforce. And so they provide training and everything through this program. So the senior services provide some great opportunities there at Goodwill. So, and we'll talk more at each of our podcasts. We'll highlight some more programs that we have. But Tamara, what do you have?
Okay, so I am Tamara Cantrell with the UMADAP of Dayton. And the UMADAP of Dayton stands for the Urban Minority Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Outreach Program. Our organization is located at 1 Elizabeth Place, RT1 in Dayton, Ohio. We have been in existence since 1980 and became an incorporated freestanding organization in 1991. UMADAP of Dayton in particular, provides prevention, treatment, and reentry programming, implementing numerous evidence-based programs and activities focused on human development, preventing risky behaviors and reducing health disparities for residents of Montgomery County. Some areas that we focus on are prevention, treatment, and reentry. I am in the prevention area. In the prevention area, we have our OVPP program, which is the Ohio Violence Prevention Program, and that is designed to reduce youth violence by increasing their awareness to counteract environmental risk, which contribute to violent behaviors, such as your bullying, domestic violence, verbal, and other forms of violence. We also have the Aiming High program at UMADAP of Dayton, and that is a community-based asset development program that offers positive alternative choices for youth between the ages of 10 and 15. Aiming High is actually designed to increase youth decision-making skills to reduce teen pregnancy, dropouts, substance abuse, and mental health problems such as depression and suicide. Some other prevention programs we have is the Elder Care Program, and we also do the WISE program along with the Goodwill. And this program is designed to reduce the incidence of prevalence and negative consequences associated with ATOD abuse among the elderly population, and also to help enhance healthy lifestyles within the elderly population. We have Health and Wellness, which is a program which is with the Commission on Minority Health, and also a lupus program, which offers support groups for lupus education and awareness. So those are just some of our prevention programs. We'll share a little more about our prevention in another segment. We also have treatment, which is outpatient treatment, and recovery support services. In our reentry programs, we have the Circle for Recovery and our community transition program, which is the CTP program. And we'll discuss those in more detail later in our podcast.
Fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks
Okay.
for sharing all those programs. UMADAP Dayton is fantastic place for people to get services. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I wanted to let you guys know that the show that was aired at 3 o'clock today, it's going to be replayed several times. So you can see the new show live every third Tuesday of the month, but every second Wednesday at 9 p.m. you can watch the show that was previously recorded, or the third Friday at 11 a.m. Is another time you can see that show. And Thursdays, every Thursday at 4 p.m., you can watch the previous live show that they've recorded, and they'll be sharing it here on DATV. We want you to, you can look to watch it this Thursday, actually, the 18th. So if you missed it today, you can watch it tomorrow or Thursday. And our next live show is the 16th of March at 3 p.m. And you can catch us live. And our podcast will always follow right along afterwards, right?
That is correct. All right, I want to thank everyone for participating and listening in, and I hope that you all will join us again the next month in our next lesson, where we're going to be continuing on with the WISE program. And just to let you know that lesson 2 will be focused on
That's all right.
having some difficult.
We have
Aging sensitivity. I'm sorry. It's 6 lessons. Lesson 2 will be focused on aging sensitivity.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Tamara.
All right. Thank you, Trent, and I'll see you next time.